I took my first cake Sunday, which was my actual birthday, over at Ohio, and this woman had 28 years of sobriety and spoke for 45 minutes, and 42 of those minutes were about her drinking. I'm pretty sure if you're sitting here, you guys know how to drink. And any story that I can tell you isn't going to drop your jaw open because you've heard something worse. And even if it's not as sexy as I would like my story to be, it doesn't matter. You know, we all drink, we all had our problems. The real reason I'm sitting here wasn't exactly because I had a problem with alcohol, is that I had a problem with life. And there's this spiritual malady within me, and I don't believe that I was born an alcoholic. You know, that's some people say they are. I don't believe that. I believe that there was some invisible line that I crossed, and I don't know when and where that happened, but I'm glad I crossed it because I like where I'm at now. I got sober when I was 24. The joke about me riding a bicycle in the rain is because the first meeting I went to was the one across Manchester on I guess it was a Saturday night, and it was pouring down rain, and I rode my bicycle, and everybody offered a ride, and I was like, nope, I'm good. I stuffed the huge big book, which I thought was a bridge version of the Bible, into my back pants, and I rode my bike home, and there was no like magical pill that I found here. Like when I first came, and all I wanted to do was I wanted everyone in here to prove to me that I was not an alcoholic. You did a terrible job. The first year of sobriety, it sounds arrogant. It wasn't hard. It wasn't hard for me to stay sober. I had my court card. I was riding a bicycle. Dating was not even close to being an option. All I had was an inflatable mattress and an Xbox, and that was my life. And I worked and I went to meetings. I didn't really have time to even think of drinking, and I couldn't afford it. And now some of us have found ways to, figure that system out, but I was scared straight for my first year. I got a sponsor, and the guy that I actually asked him because I thought I would never see him because I never saw him in meetings. And then he was like, well, call me every day, and we'll go to a meeting every week. And I was like, shit. That's not what I wanted. This was all a scam. Like, I was just going to get sober and get through all my court stuff, and then when I was done with my DUI, then I was going to go drink. And I held true to that plan up here. I walked the walk, I talked the talk, I did the steps, I did everything. And the last thing that I had to do for my DUI was go to the morgue in their Scared Straight program and look at toe tags. And there's a guy that has been in this program and sat in these rooms that's no longer with us. His name was Mikey, and we called him Margarita Mike. And the day that I had to go to the coroner's office, my buddy Will called me up, and he was like, hey, dude, what are you up to? I'm like, it's 8 in the morning on Saturday. Like, why are you calling me? And he was like, well, you know our friend Mike? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, he died last night. And I was like, well, how did he die? He's like, well, he relapsed and he got in a car accident. And I was like last night? And he's like, yeah. He's like, what are you up to? Let's hang out. And I was like, I'm at the morgue. And he's like, oh, well, tell Mike hi for me. And so I walk into the room, and there's 3 gurneys, and the woman sits there and says, we brought these bodies in last night. This guy was an old dude that died of old age. This guy got shot, and this guy got in a DUI car accident. There's no name tag, but I'm pretty sure I know who it was. And that's when it hit me. 99 times out of 100, I can drink and be safe and do all the right things and function the way society wants, but that one time can take me out. It sent me to jail. It, crashed my car. If you guys all know how much a DUI costs, When that guy sat there and challenged me, I made a choice to change in an instant. And everyone in here you know, when we talk about change, most people will sit there and say, oh, it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. You know, change, you know, it takes forever to change. It doesn't. Because in that instance, I changed. And I didn't realize the magnitude of getting sober, but 9 years later, one split instance, one decision to change, and to sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do it someone else's way, and here I am. But the reality is that tonight, I can leave here and I can have a drink, and my whole life can change in one instant. So whenever you get conflicted with this concept and you're struggling, like, I don't know, like, if I can stay sober forever or what I should do, and like, is this program for me? I say experiment, you know? That's why we have 30, 60, 90 days, you know? Experiment. Try and see what happens after 30 days, you know? One of the biggest things that kept me sober in the beginning wasn't that I could truly deep down admit that I was an alcoholic, but I had the potential to be an alcoholic, and I no longer needed to prove to you or myself that I was. How far do I have to go down? Until I stop digging, you know? And it's hard, man. Like, my life has gotten better. My bike now has 4 wheels and a sunroof, you know? My inflatable mattress is now a mahogany bed. And the living room that I was sleeping in at my friend's place is now a condo that I own. You know, I have a job where I don't work very hard, and I get to travel whenever I want to. You know, my relationships, they're relationships. You know, but I always say it's like a pitcher during a no-hitter. You know, or a win streak. You don't change your socks. I haven't changed my socks, you know, because like I said up there, like there's only one way you get long-term sobriety. Don't drink and live, you know. And it was funny, I was talking to my sponsor this morning, and I was saying, like, this is the first meeting I've actually gone to where someone didn't trump me with my time, like, because I'm like, oh, I got 8 years, and then boom, someone takes a cake for 20, and I'm like. So this is the first meeting that's ever happened in 9 years, and he said he had the same experience, and this guy had the exact same day, and they went to the same meetings, and every year, and he ended up having like 34 years, and then 1 year he wasn't there to take a cake, and it wasn't because he died. 34 years, and he went out. You know, I can't sit there and say like your life's going to get better. I've seen people's lives go to shit. I've seen people become very wealthy. I've seen people find the love of their lives. I've seen every, you know, aspect of the scale. But what I can promise you is that, like, if you come in, you're humble, and you ask for help, that help will be provided, and that you will have the chance and the opportunity at a life that's better than what you expected. You know, I thought I was going to die at 25 in some like car accident, shooting off a cliff or something crazy. You know, that wasn't, you know, as sexy as I thought it was, you know. And when I was sitting there riding and pedaling, I didn't think that I would be sitting here where I am today. Certainly didn't think I'd be sober this long, you know. But 3,290 days doesn't matter. What matters more is 24 hours. And sometimes it's only 60 minutes, you know, or 60 seconds, because that's how quick it can happen, you know. So whenever you're sitting there and you say, oh man, he's got 9 years, he's got 20 years, like, how am I ever going to get that? You're not yet. Think about, how can I get the next hour? How can I get the next 2 hours? How can I get the next day? You know, and then little bit by little bit, it adds up, you know. One of the things is like, what's my primary purpose? And I'm like, to make money, to be happy. No, my primary purpose is to stay sober and to help another alcoholic achieve sobriety. Because when you help and you're of service to others, you're out of this dangerous neighborhood. You know, I've heard in this room many times, your brain is like a dangerous neighborhood. Don't go there alone, you know. So whenever I'm able to sit here and talk to you, or raise my hand and share, or simply show up, then I'm being of service, you know. And thank God, like, people that aren't in this program say, well, why do you keep going to those AA classes? Didn't you graduate yet? And I was like, yeah, I graduated. Now I'm one of the teachers, you know. But a true teacher is always a student and is always learning. because there's always people in these rooms that are going to teach me, and the teacher can learn from the student and vice versa. You know, if we got 5 years and then we got to go away, then no one would have been there to offer me a ride in the rain for me to turn down. You know, because our greatest strength is actually being able to ask for help, to admit that we are less than, and the answers are not within. Like, that's a myth. You know, I don't have the answers to figure out my life and how to handle it and handle my feelings and stay sober. I have to look for you, and then I have this committee that I rely on. You know, Tom might give me one suggestion, you know, but Chris might have a different viewpoint. I don't have to sit there and do what Tom says or what Chris says or what my sponsor says blindly. I take all three of them and then I create my own. And by creating my own, I create my own life. And then once I've created my own life, then I can share it with others. And then my life is enriched. And, you know, I have a big ego, man. And I want everything in this life. You know, more is more to me. And every time I get in that space, you know, where I'm sitting there thinking, I call it like the buts. Like, I would be happy, but I don't have this. I would be successful, but then I stand. I get off that butt, you know. And I realize that, you know, as long as I'm making progress, not perfection, and I'm in a place of gratitude, you know, whenever I'm feeling down, I call up one of these guys, you know. And I've got the best friends in the world because they don't sit there and say, oh, man, I feel bad for you. They say, get off your ass, man. Like, you feel like shit, go to a meeting. Listen to somebody, you know. Check out of yourself, you know. Write a gratitude list. Ugh, I hate that one, you know, because it's too long. I get writer's cramp. I just want to, I probably went over my time a bit, but I want to end on this one thing in regards to, like, gratitude and how powerful this program is, and then just the meeting in general. I was 2.5 years sober. I was dating a girl and she broke my heart. I was in lust. Now I realize that, not love, but I digress. It was 10 o'clock at night and I was ready to drink. I was like, fuck it all. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to feel this pain. I'm going to drink. And then the toolbox that I have created and carried with me said, why don't you go to a late night meeting? If there's no meeting to go to, then you can drink. And there was one at the Marina Center, and it was 11 o'clock, and I walked in, and there was like 7 people there, and I was like, I can't wait to share, tell them I want to drink, but I'm not going to drink, and look at me, how strong I am. And this woman charged in right at the sharing point and said, I've got to share first. And my resentment built. I was like, that's bullshit. This is my time. And she said, I just drove home, and I'm a total wreck. I've got, you know, like double-digit sobriety, and my road was blocked off, and there was cops all over, and they wouldn't let me get to my house. And I said, but I got to get home to see my son. And they're like, well, there's been an accident. The kid on a motorcycle just got in an accident. She said, my kid rides a motorcycle. And then he goes, well, then you should come with us. And her son was decapitated that evening on a motorcycle. I think that is a lot worse than what I was going through. And where was she and where was I? We know where to go and when to go. So even if you don't get it tonight or tomorrow or next week, I hope that from what I've shared and what all these people that are in this room that are here to support you, you'll know where to come to. Anytime that you're faced with something like that, and it sits there and your best idea is to go drink and not feel. I say feel, because then that's the best thing in the world. Because if you can feel the bad, then it makes the good even better. That's all I got. Thanks.